Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation. In today's video, we're going to be upgrading or replacing the factory or aftermarket radio in this 1994 Lexus SC400. In this install, we're going to show you how to remove everything, get access to this radio. We'll head to the bench, wire up the new radio, back here, and get everything reinstalled. Let's get started. Alright, so as we get started here, as you can see, we already have an aftermarket radio installed. So in today's video, we're actually just going to be upgrading this to a doubled-in touchscreen radio, which will be a nice upgrade, especially for something that has Bluetooth. Now, one thing to note within this install is whether you have the aftermarket or factory radio currently installed, the factory volume knob here on the left-hand side will remain or becomes obsolete. It's just there, unfortunately, just the nature of this install. So just kind of keep that in mind there. Now, as we get started, we do have to pull apart some of the bezels here, especially with getting the gear shifter off. We have to pull this bezel off, which gives us access to pull this outer bezel off, and finally to the screws up and around the factory radio. So what we're going to do is first check to make sure our discs are out. It doesn't look like there's any discs in there. Now, one other thing to note is as we do this install, if you do have the upgraded amplified system, there's two different harness options that you'll need, whether you have amplified or not. And then finally, if you have the 6 CD changer in the trunk, that no longer can be retained. Unfortunately, that's something that won't be able to work with aftermarket equipment. So with that being said, what we're going to do is pull our gift shifter back. We'll pull the collar down just like so here, and what that's going to do is expose these two screws that we need to remove so this top can slide on off. Once those are off, then this should just be able to slide on up just like so. And then after that, the next thing we need to do is pop this bezel on up. Now it's easier to start kind of at the top, so we're going to open up the ashtray here, get your fingers up underneath. Now it's an old Lexus, we don't want to crack this bezel, so I do have a panel tool that'll aid us in popping that on out. Perfect. So with that out of the way, we can remove that. We just pull it back, put that back in park. We can turn the key back off. So we went ahead and just unplugged that. Now the instructions do call for us to remove the cup holder, so let's go ahead and do that. And it should just unclip. There it goes. We just pulled up on it, pops on out. Looks like there's two clips here in the back. Now we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws that need to be pulled. Okay, once those screws have been removed at this point, the bottom is nice and loose, but the top is held in with clips. So using a panel tool here, we're going to just try to carefully pop these clips on out. Again, we don't want to crack these bezels. These are expensive and probably really hard to find a replacement for. Okay. Disconnect harnesses here. They are super short. So with that out of the way, we're going to have some screws holding the whole radio assembly together. We're going to have to remove those as well. And it looks like it's a combination of screws and 10mm bolts. Okay, so with all those screws and bolts removed, now at this point we should be good to go to pull out the whole radio assembly, including the climate controls. They should come as one. Now we have a ton of harnesses here. Pull out and unplug. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so quite a bit to unplug, but we got it on out. everything's unplugged here. So we're going to take this whole radio assembly up over to the bench. So we got to keep these brackets, but what we're going to do is swap over our new equipment. Now if this was your factory radio, same thing. We need to take this on over to the bench and retain some of the factory pieces to put them in our aftermarket kit. So let's head on over. All right, so here we are at the bench. Now the parts we're going to need, because we have the amplified version, and the way that you can tell is if you have the 6 CD changer, if you have the 6 CD changer in the trunk, and this is what it looks like, then you're going to need an amplified harness, and it's the Metra 70-8112, I believe. And if you don't have it, it's the standard Toyota harness that you'll need. We'll post both links to both harnesses down in the description. So again, if you do have the 6 CD changer, you'll need the harness with the RCA ends, the pre-outs, because you'll have the amplified version of your vehicle. And if you don't have the 6 CD changer, you don't have the amplifier, and you'll need a standard Toyota harness. Again, everything linked in the description. The radio that we've chosen to go with, the Pioneer AVH 210EX. And then we have our dash kit. Now the dash kit, because we're doing a doubled in, the dash kit, this calls for the Metra 958157B for this vehicle. So these are the parts we're going to go with. If you're doing a single DIN, it'll be a slightly different dash kit. Again, I can link that in the description for you as well. Now we do have our factory radio here, and it looks like originally this is just all kind of custom made. It's an older radio. I think this was done about maybe 15-20 years ago or something like that. But what we're going to do is pop out the radio. We're going to disassemble the radio and HVAC controls here and get this all ready for the new kit. HVAC controls just screw right into the top of the Metra bracket. There's little guiding holes, which is super nice. And then we put in our 3 screws on each side supplied by the radio itself. So that's all in. And then the faceplate of the dash kit just screws into the side brackets as well. So just follow the instructions. Nice thing is Metra provides a great kit. Walks you through step by step on how to do that. So we'll put this off to the side. Next thing we need to focus on is our wiring. Now we have our Metra harness and our Pioneer harness. So what we're going to do is essentially strip both ends and start marrying up here, color for color. Alright, so what we're going to do, because we have the amplified harness, we don't need to hook up our speaker wires, because our amplifier and the factory amplifier in the vehicle is going to run off those RCAs. So our speaker wire outputs, the internal amp built into the Pioneer, we actually won't be using, because we'll use the pre-outs or the signal outputs from the RCAs to supply the amplifier to power the speakers. So all we do need to hook up are these guys. We'll match color for color. Now if you didn't have the amplified version, you will need your speaker wires, because they will wire up to your harness's corresponding color. So kind of keep that in mind. So what we're going to do is we strip both ends. We're going to put some heat shrink tubing up and over these before we start soldering up. Once we've done so, after getting these guys on, we're going to solder these up color for color. We'll shrink the tubes down and then wrap the harness and test the tape. So we have our harness all put together, ready to go. So at this point of time, what we need to do is head over to the car and start getting everything installed. Alright, so we're back here in the car, ready to get everything reinstalled. First thing we need to do, let's go and plug in our radio harness. Get that plugged on in. Just like so. Got our antenna ready to go. Run your Bluetooth mic if you haven't done so already. With our harness all connected, ready to go. At this point, let's get the radio back in the dash. start connecting everything. All right, go ahead and start just tucking everything back in the dash here. All right, so before we button up the dash here, let's make sure everything is working. Looks like everything's working great. Go ahead and start reassembling everything else. Alright, so everything's back together. We double checked, makes everything's worked. The radio's working great. It sounds awesome. That's about it. So if you have any questions on what we did here, go ahead and post a comment below. Thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because we post great content on the channel all the time, and we will see you in the next video.